I have a brief story to share. Before I got into this stage, one of my friends told me that I should tuck in my shirt. But then I said no, because I want everybody to look at me like I'm a scientist. Like I'm wearing a lab coat right now, so that people realize I'm actually a scientist. Alright, so I was really excited when I got the invite to speak today. This is one of the very rare opportunities that I have to chat science without the judgy looks from my fellow scientists. But then the excitement quickly turned into panic, because suddenly I found myself so lost in a world where I have no idea what the kids are into these days. I myself don't have TikTok. I don't even know what is going on social media right now. And I don't even know who BTS is. So I was really nervous. I put a lot of thoughts into what to include in my talk today. I went back and forth between different ideas. And with the theme of subversion, I finally decided to land on a topic which I believe is really important, but then largely overlooked, especially within the Vietnamese society. The topic that I chose is science and diversity. To be more specific, we're going to dive into how increasing diversity can help fuel scientific research and innovation. And hopefully at the end of my talk, I could convince you guys that science is not only for any specific group of people, it's for everyone. So before I get into my talk, I have a very quick question to ask you guys. By raising of hands, how many of you have a family member or a friend who is a scientist? Raise your hands if you do. All right. Chị Thùy Minh, 1, 2. Okay, less than 10. The ratio is so low, okay? And some of them actually know me, so that doesn't count. So the term scientist is not really a familiar term. It's not like a common household occupation like a teacher or a policeman. Not a lot of people know the exact jobs of a scientist. The reason why I ask the questions about whether you know any friend who is a scientist is because today I'm going to tell a story about one of the very close friends of mine who is also a scientist and the one that I admire a lot. So my friend goes by Ben. Ben and I grew up together and we share so many things with each other. Neither of Ben's parents were scientists, but he was really interested in math and science at a very young age. When he got into secondary school, he started to study chemistry and fell in love with the subjects. I remember there was one time Ben told me that, just seeing two things mixed together, react, and produce new substances with different colors and different properties is just the most amazing thing in the world. He told me that with this really sparkling eyes, showing that how passionate he is about chemistry. But then also during this time, Ben realized a shocking truth about himself. He is different from the majority of his friends. Ben is gay. He was not the only person that was aware of this. Other people, including his family and friends, were also aware that Ben is gay. Perhaps because of his expression and interactions that made them to realize that. Among those people, a few people gave him a pretty, they were supportive, but then the majority gave Ben a really hard time. They made fun of his sexuality, and they verbally bullied the little boy. So because he had such a hard time, he couldn't really focus on science 100%. Those horrible incidents and discrimination, although they did not happen on a daily basis, it did haunt him throughout high school. In high school, he still did so well in science. He got so many prizes and awards in science. But then there was one day, I remember it was during the 10th grade, Ben sat down with me and told me that, "Hey Bach, I think I'm going to quit science." I was in shock and asked him, "Wait, why? Why would you want to quit science? You were so good at it." Ben's response was, is because I'm gay. And there is no successful gay scientist in the world. All successful scientists are heterosexual men and women. And even if I'm becoming successful, no one would ever take me seriously because of my sexuality. So I think I should change my interest, find a different interest, different community where we're more welcoming and open toward the gay individuals like myself. I didn't know what to tell Ben. I was only 16 years old at that time. I wasn't supposed to give advice. But I knew that something was not right. And my heart was broken. So the question is, do you think Ben quit science? I would like you guys to meet with Ben on the screen. This is my endearing friend, Ben. This is him. Oops. This is him when he was really small. He grew up, I think he was really into fashion. Do you think so? And then in high school, he became this kind of good-looking man. So at this point, some of you might have realized that Ben is actually myself in the past. He did not quit science. Indeed, he turned into a very confident scientist that is standing in front of you here today and showing you his stories. Thank you. The reason why I did not want to tell this story just simply as my past, but rather a friend of mine, is because I've always considered myself in the past one of my very closest friends, a friend who reminds me of how strong and resilient I was to overcome all the discrimination to pursue my passion of becoming a scientist. At the age of 16, I did not have any advice to give your intelligence by your hard working and by your kindness. Just believe in yourself and move forward. I just love Ben so much because thanks to him, I can be the person that I am today. And fast forward to the present, I consider myself as a very happy scientist. I don't think I'm successful, but I think I'm happy. I wake up every day doing the things that I love and get paid. So I'm a very happy scientist. And luckily, I have pursued higher education in different countries, including Japan and the United States. I'm now pursuing my PhD research in biochemistry at one of the greatest universities in the world. I have opportunities to work side by side with Nobel Prize winners in chemistry, and I have learned from so many incredible professors. When I interact with those high-profile people, it's very obvious that they are very smart. There's no questions, okay? But then there is another thing that I realized about them, is how much they appreciate diversity in science. The diversity that I'm referring to is the diversity in terms of different forms of identity, including gender, sexual orientation, religious belief, national origins, socio-economical status, and so on, just to name a few. So, the American people, because right now I'm doing my PhD in the United States, a lot of Americans would agree with me that one of the reasons why the United States is a leading country in science and technology is because they welcome people from all over the world to come to the country to do science. And, the people that come to the United States, they have different backgrounds, they have different stories, and they offer that story to improve the science being done in the United States. Although it's not perfect, the US is not perfect, okay? But then the American institutions have a lot of programs and initiatives to promote diversity, inclusion, and equity, especially within the research community, so that people from underrepresented groups will feel empowered to do science. Think about it. Science has been historically dominated by heterosexual men. There is virtually no representation or role models of successful female, gay, lesbian, and queer scientists. And you could tell from the story of Ben, right? Ben almost quit science because he could not find any role model who is gay and successful in science simultaneously. Imagine how dangerous that would be. Science almost lost Ben just because of such discrimination. So, if we take a look back at the history, we have always seen great female scientists in the history. I would like you guys to take a look at this really classical picture. This is a picture of a lot of scientists. Some of you might realize this is Albert Einstein, and we all know him, right? And there's a lot of other scientists right here. They are all men, except for one person. This woman is Marie Curie. Marie Curie is a great female scientist who won a Nobel Prize in Physics in 1903 and another Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1911. She remained the only scientist, not only in this picture, but in the history, to achieve 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different subjects. And then fast forward to the present, we should all thank Dr. Caroline Carrico, a professor of University of Pennsylvania in the United States. She is the mother of the mRNA vaccines that have saved millions of lives worldwide during the COVID-19 pandemic. So there are great female scientists, incredible female scientists, both in the past and in present. And diversity just doesn't stop at gender, okay? In 2022, members of the LGBTQIA+ community were recognized for their contributions to science. Dr. Svante Pääbo is a professor in Sweden, won a Nobel Prize in medicine, and he's an openly bisexual. And Dr. Caroline Bertozzi, who is professor at Stanford University in the United States, won a Nobel Prize in chemistry and is an openly lesbian. So it's just really amazing to see science being done by diverse scientists and from underrepresented groups. Is this evident that anybody, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, religious belief, national origins, races, and so on, can do science as long as you are curious and passionate about the natural world? So I've talked a lot about, diversity, but why does it matter so much in science? It's because science these days requires extensive teamwork and collaboration. And the reason why scientists have to collaborate and team up is because the problems we are facing today are evolving in complexity and global scale. Problems like climate change, cancer, pandemic, chronic disease, and antibiotic resistance, they are no longer simple or local problems. They require people and scientists from all over the world to come together, find solutions, and tackle those problems. So that's why teamwork is extremely important in science. And in order to increase or maximize the efficiency of teamwork, diversity is a critical component. Diversity in science is not just a common sense. A lot of scientific studies have shown that a diverse group tend to outperform homogeneous counterpart. A diverse group of people can provide complementary expertise, they can approach problems from different perspectives, and they're better able to generate novel research methods, explanations, and ideas. We are so much smarter if we are more diverse. So I have talked about why diversity matters in science. Right now, I would like to shift our focus to the state of science in Vietnam. We all know that, I think everybody in this room has the same dream with me, which is to bring Vietnam to become one of the greatest countries in the world. However, let me tell you this thing. Improving science is the only way to get there, because science is foundations for everything. It's a foundation for medicine, for engineering, for technology, and even for entertainment industry, including music and fashion. Science in Vietnam in the past 10 years has changed, it has improved, but it still doesn't catch up with the science being done by developed countries. So what is holding us back? First of all, to me, science education in Vietnam doesn't encourage students to ask questions. The way that we are teaching students focuses too much on memorizing equations and problem-solving techniques rather than exploring the essence and nature of scientific phenomena. We always ask students to find the right answers, and they can always find the answers. That's why students think that there is no more questions in science. But this cannot be more wrong, because science is always evolving, and there are still so many unsolved problems and questions in science that require more people and extensive effort to investigate. So I think the first thing we need to do is to change the way we teach science to students, to encourage them to ask questions, ask open-ended and insightful questions. The second thing that I want to address is how Vietnam is embracing diversity. I think there's a lot of problems that need to be addressed. First of all, men are still dominating scientific research in Vietnam. I believe a lot of parents out there are still telling their daughters that science is for boys and not for girls, because girls are not as smart as boys to do science. Not only that's a horrible thing to say to a little girl, but it's also not true. I have shown you a lot of examples of great female scientists who have changed the world, and they are all female scientists. And gender just doesn't affect your ability to do science. Another aspect of diversity in Vietnam remains a hurdle is sexual orientation. Not only same-sex marriage is not legalized in Vietnam, but a lot of Vietnamese people is still not properly educated about the LGBTQIA+ community and the diversity in terms of sexual orientation. We scientists are also human beings, and we have lives outside of science. We cannot focus on producing good science if we have to hide ourselves, or the society doesn't accept us for who we are, or if we are not given the basic human rights, including the right to marry the person we love, regardless of gender. So I think all of such downsides is slowing the scientific advancement in our country right now. So today, I'm standing here sending a message to all the people in this room, because I believe a lot of you will become great leaders in the future. If you have the same dream as me, which is to bring Vietnam to become one of the greatest countries in the world, remember that science is the only and the fastest way to get there. And also remember that science welcomes all perspectives. You can do science regardless of any forms of identities. We need your opinions, and your opinions matter. And to the policy makers and to the teachers and non-science individuals, we need to change the way we teach children. We need to encourage them to ask questions and be curious about the world, and award them credits for that, and not too much for finding the right answers. And then another thing that we need to do is we need to embrace diversity and create an inclusive and welcoming environment for everyone to come and do science. If we can achieve that, I think it's not only will make science in Vietnam so much greater, but it will also contributing to make Vietnam and the world a better place for everybody. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your attention.